Hi guys, Shirley Peters here. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience in waiting for me to create another video because it's been quite a while. I have good, great excuses. I did a series of 16 very large paintings and it got to a stage where I just could not do anything else. I had to focus on those because there was a deadline. I had to get the paintings done by a certain period to give them 2 weeks to dry before they were hung in a show. As it turned out, the show never happened. It's going to happen in January. It got postponed right at the point of delivery. So I've delivered the paintings. They're hanging in the gallery. The gallery closed down virtually before I got there, and but they're hanging anyway. You can peek through the window. And anyway, they're going to redo the show in January, which is great. We'll be all open by then. We're just opening up now. This is New South Wales. I'm in Sydney, and we've been in lockdown for a few months. And so I've been busy doing things like cleaning sheds. And of course looking after the chickens. I planted a hedge all the way to 120 plants of hedging. What else have we been doing? We're getting the motorhome ready to take off. I've been doing a little bit of plein air painting, but not much. But on the whole, just getting on with life and doing other things. So that was after the paintings were done. So I just thought now's the time to get back. I've missed you guys, and I've had a few messages. Thank you very much, and everyone's saying please, do another one. So. And I've had a few requests for watercolours, so I'll continue with watercolour. And I'll do every now and then I'll do an acrylic, and one day I'll do oils, because oils are what I do normally. When I go plein air painting, I take my oils. I'm going to try a fairly complicated but easy. I'll see if I can turn it into an easy painting. And it's a couple of little cottages on the water in Norway, and when we were on the boat, took a photo. Anyway, I'll do the sketch first and follow along. If you want to scrub forward to get straight to the painting stage, you're welcome to, and watch me make a total mess. And probably my style is to totally mess it up to start with, and then I get it, I sort of can pull it together towards the end, usually with the help of gouache, which as a watercolourist, I'm just breaking all the rules there. You should do watercolour without any white. So let's just say I'm going to break rules. I can see that little white house will just pop if I'll try and leave it, but I tend to go over lines and make a mess, and the white saves me. Anyway, enough rabbiting. I'll turn the camera. Now, I think the main part of this drawing is going to be just the straight across the middle there, and then a little classic doll's houses, really. If I try and draw neatly, I get all jammed up. So I start doing a sketchy style like this, where I just throwing in a couple of lines here and there and being very loose. It helps. It helps that first beginning part where you feel a little bit frozen. You can hear an aeroplane outside. That's a pretty rare thing nowadays. Let's put a little bit of detailing behind there too. Later. I'm going to leave out this front business. It's a sort of a raised wall. It kind of is really confusing. Windows. I'll put that little gable up there. Make sure I've got these proportions square. Vertical lines. Always helps when you're doing buildings to keep the walls straight. For some reason people prefer that. Now, interesting sort of rock face over here. Now there's a sort of a rock there. I'll put that rock and a little wall around that, and then that flagpole. This is all very dark here, and there's some interesting rocks there. Now the reflection, I won't bother drawing in because I'll be able to work it out as I paint. And with the trees, I'll just do a couple of, once again, these really should be just left for paint. Same with the background there. When you want it to be really soft, best not to draw it in. You could do the horizontal line there. Now, that's about it. I hope you can see it. I'll take a photo. Okay. Now I'm going to be using a size 18 Escoda Aquario, and it's one of the Joseph Zbukvic. Need to wet. Okay. What you should do before you start is wet up your paints. I was using these yesterday, so they're not too damp, but not too dried, but I should have put some more water in them. Might just take a little bit to activate them again. Turn Vegemite around so I'm not able. Got this 330 that side. Hang on, let's see if I can get that right. Okay. Now. Got to remember which colours I've got where. Once they dry, sometimes these watercolours tend to start looking very similar. As a dried panel, they're just very dark. So I'm going to start with a nice ultramarine blue sky there at the top. And I've got cerulean here. Pretty sure that is. Put that down the bottom. Go back in with the ultramarine, even though it's not in the painting, in the photograph, sorry. I'm going to just darken that up a little bit. That's dry, that was wet onto dry paper. I'll just give that a bit of a scrub across. Today I have a rag. I'll try and work with a rag rather than tissues. I get sick of having too many tissues around. Mix up a little bit of green for the back details there, the back trees. I don't want them too bright, even though in the photograph they do look bright. I want to exaggerate the distance, so I'll add blue to them, to the green, and just touch them in like that. Same back here. Then for the next forward, a little bit forward, I'll just make it a little bit warmer. And then I'll start using this green, it's a neutral green, up into these other trees and get a little bit of a blur happening because it's wet on wet. Quite happy for that to be. Running into the blue. Okay. I'll mix up a touch of the brighter green, tap that in. I'll put in a little bit of warmth on that one. Back to green for that one. Just going to start making up a few of these now. They're not necessarily going to represent what's there, but just makes it interesting. Definitely an autumn scene. Just going to throw a bit of bright yellowy colour down there. My colours are linked below, but when I'm painting, I can't really get my head around naming the names unless it's really obvious to me. But these yellows, I've got a variety of different ones, and could be, I don't know. One of these days I'll get the I'll get the colour chart out. There is a colour, I have got the colour chart on my website, so you can go back to that and reference exactly what colours I'm using if one of them appeals to you. But on the whole, if you look at a colour sheet from a paint supplier, you will pick out what colours you need. And this is sort of like an orangey yellow as opposed to a lemon yellow. There at the back there, I'm going to put this beautiful, because I've got an edge there, I'm going to put that beautiful green colour in there. I can see I'm beginning to have a bit of a run, so without too much panicking, I'll try and get that out of there. I'll grab a little bit of black. A lot of times I say don't use black, but every now and then it's handy when you just want to dull off a colour. Save you mixing a lot of different hues. Try and get the shadows of those trees behind locked in there. I've also got a little bit of light green and orangey yellow detail in that foliage over on those hills there, so I'll just pop that in as a bit of interest. And at the same time over here I want to redden up this area. It's not very red. Every now and then my brush doesn't want to do what it's told. It's a little bit disobedient. So I'm going to pop more red into that. I want to contrast a little bit with the green foliage. Touch those in. I think I'll go a bit greener on that one there. Now behind here, oops, I'll go lighter than that even. I've still got green on my brush. This is the only time I don't like these brushes, when they start to fold over like that. So just a hint of tree behind just adds a little bit of interest and makes it look like it goes a long way back. Sometimes you can put a touch of purple into these too, especially on this side where it's very shadowy. I'll put that purple down to the water. I'll probably come in quite dark there later. So I'll put it solidly in, knowing it'll fade by the time I get back to it. Now, it's in the photograph, it's almost dark, almost black in that area. So I'll stick to the green, sap green. Put that in there. Kind of tap it in. And tap in another layer over that. Using the heel of the brush as a sort of a fade out point where the tapping in disappears. A little bit of the greeny blue on this. I love colour, so I try and use colourful elements, even if they're not necessarily in the photograph. Ultramarine blue here, adding into that green going down that hill. Now I'll pop those little lines, spots in here and there because there's shadows in amongst that, and I can come back to it later and line it up with or even now I could, no, it's not quite dry enough to play with that. But put the blue back into the green, and I'm going to run that down there. Oops, it's run down there anyway. It's run down the front, doesn't matter. Kind of shadowy area from the house. Now I'm going to wet the brush, dry it off, just soften that up a little bit. Much as I want the shadow to be there, I don't need it to be hard edged. If I take out, using a dry brush, take out a few little areas there, just to give that tiny hint of grass, softness. Across the front. Okay. I'll let that all dry off a bit, and meanwhile I'll start on the water, which is basically going to have, when I look at this, there's an overall ice blue, I'd call that. So I'll clean my brush as much as I can. I'll use a nice big area. It'll be ultramarine. It's the coolest blue, I think, in my palette. So I need to use it. So what I'm going to do is just wet the whole area with this blue. That's going to be my base colour for the water. You can run it out to white down the bottom. No need to scrub over backwards and forwards. I'm going to get a very, very dark version of that. Add black to it for speeding up the process. I want that steely blacky colour right across the front here. I've got a hair. It happens. Even in the best brushes you will lose a hair from time to time. So I'm going to go right over there. I'll come back to that later with a little bit of warm brown. I'm just putting in the dark part here. I'll just go. Don't know if you can hear that blowfly. I cannot make a video here without a blowfly joining me. Add some more dark in there. Okay, I've just let that dry off a touch. It's a fairly warm day here in Sydney, so okay, yeah, really bling that in there. And what I have to do here is draw it down, but be aware of the areas that I do not want to be darkened. So I'll start with one little run past like that. I'll wet my brush. I'll wash it completely actually. And tap the water into that. Bring that down. Tap the water into that. And then there. I'm going to come back and do the flagpole later. I'm not going to worry about that. That's way too complicated at this stage. So I'm just bringing those down. Down, down, down. A little bit across that way for that middle piece there. This one here also has the dark area there and there. Now for the fun of it, I'll put some deep green into that, especially that side. This side. Believe it or not, over here it's purple. Just going by what's in the photograph, or what my printer thought was in the photograph. I'm going to tap the purple in over here into the dark area, see if it runs down. I'd love it to sort of start sinking. What's that? Purple over there too, with the green beside it. Right. Now, work its way down. This is where you have to just look to see how much reflection in the water, how much movement is in that water. If it's dead still water, it would be a mirror reflection, but it's not, it's moving around. So I'm going to have to put a few lines going across like that. And then I'm going to put some red into those before they dry. Okay, clean the brush. Now my red, I want it to be a mixture of magenta and flat red. Neither of them are perfect, so I just want halfway between the two, erring on the side of the flat red. Maybe if I add a bit of yellow, that might help. Okay. So I'm just going to add some of this red down here into the water reflection. Too dark. I'll go lighter than that. Righto. Now even lighter. It's a little bit difficult because it's on top of the blue, so I'm not getting a lovely fresh look at the red. But put some red over here. Definitely below there. Wow, almost 2 vertical lines I need there. And then coming down to much yellower. Oh, too dark. So just run back up like that. I can add bits of white to that later if I want to give that a bit of a hint. Okay. Stand back for a sec. Now I'm thinking beautiful areas of green coming down, reflecting there. Because half of this picture is its reflections. Okay. These go across there a little bit. When it's almost dry, I might just run my fingernail through those and capture, see how I go capturing the, I'll just do a little bit now, see what it's like. It's really a matter of time to get those little light blue pieces coming back through. In fact, I can sometimes go to something like, oh, yeah, I think that's clean. I use these for oil sometimes, and I have to make sure I'm not introducing anything too wayward. Just like the idea of wetting up a thin brush like this, thin edged brush. Just going back into there, adding a few waves. Because it's on a slight angle, this is the thing. These water's not very often square onto where you are. Unless it's on, if you're standing on the edge of the water on the land, might be, but we were on a boat, so we were definitely going a different angle. I'll put that over near the water. So I'm just going to run through this. Always blame your tools if you can't get the right stroke. This is probably not the right brush. But then it's up to me to choose the right one, so there you go. I guess that might work better. Tiny little number 4 fill bit. Not bad. Not much different really. Okay, I'm going to use my fingernail, just see what happens. Okay, happy enough with that. Now, back to the house. While I've got this little chisel-ended paint brush out, I might just work on the house itself, which has got white on the ends. Scrap it across. Don't have to be too precious. I will add a little bit of different colour there. Just for the sake of fun. Later on I have to add a shadow there on that side. No. Okay, back to the red. This side it's red down here. Go quite dark and cool there. Soak it back up. And then the sunny side, fill it right in for me. Oops. Down like that. I'm deliberately now being loose because I don't want to get tightened up with these little details of the house. Just across the front here. Test out the colour, yep. And get the stronger colour and just touch it up under the eaves. It's not going to probably, I'll try and get it up there, I'll just see, might need to wait a little bit. Detail in the garden, down here. Oh, browns. I need to start working on some browns too. And that would mean this side. Just an ultramarine, a burnt umber brown is my go-to, but you can also use a sienna, burnt sienna, raw sienna. I'll come back to my main brush for this. You can just definitely get better results with a soft brush in watercolour than a bristle. Just run that brown across everywhere. Problem for me is I end up with too much water on it, and I think water control is the secret to successful watercolour. You have to be able to know how much to put on, how much not, how to leave it to dry, etc. How dry the paper should be. So in other words, it's all to do with moisture. Whereas other paints are just, you stick them on. You don't like it, you put another layer on. You don't like that, you put another layer on. It's a different world. I'm going to just mark the rocks down here because they're waiting for a bit of attention. Darker towards the base. Oh, it's an interesting green colour, I love that. Just fluke. What colour are the... I think the... interesting. I'll do a dark brown mixed with blue for the ultramarine and burnt umber. For the stems of the trees, I'll just see how thin I can go with this brush. Normally I would use a rigger. Be good if I had one. I've misplaced it. Got no idea where it could be. Just put a couple of the details in here so I'm beginning to get a feel for how the painting will start to wrap up. Because it's one thing to get basic colours in, but you need to start organising yourself in the final, for the final part. In other words, place in a couple of strong details that will give your next strokes guide. I'm going to decide what to do there. That's what do I do at this stage? Very dark blue there. Very dark green in behind there. Take it down lower. Take it down below the gables of the roof, so the gables of the roof stand out. And then I'm going to fill in now. Yeah, I was just working on this little area. Trying to get shape into these trees behind. Of course, you just can't see any branches in this type of tree, which is fine, but you can see shapes. So I tend to want to do as much as that as I can. Now I'm going to blend that out. It's all a bit too harsh for the distance, so just blending it with a bit of water. And I've got actually something to do here. I've just noticed I've not quite chiseled that well enough to make it strong, so I'll put that in. Use this brush. Now behind here also there's dark, lovely dark green. I think that helps the composition. I think that was one of the reasons that I might have been attracted to it. So don't know if I'll bother to leave. I'll try and do that. Yeah, okay. Just talking about leaving the limbs exposed so that I can, because later I can come back and put them in, you see. But that's a little bit of a naughty thing with using too much gouache to add items. Better off to do them now. Better off to paint in a negative way, leave things out. Which that's the other side of watercolour. You are painting in the negative. You're doing reverse, what they call reverse painting too. I think that's probably a better name for it. You're painting the shapes around a subject rather than the subject itself in a lot of cases. I'm just having a bit of fun with this scratchy brush here, just blending some of the areas. I can use it to add texture at the top, which is not necessarily already obvious. Okay. It's a bit wonky there, but I kind of like it. But I'm going to add dark, make it darker still. Add another textured area. Might just look at slight shadow across there, and I'll strengthen the shadow here. The front is going to be a bit of an issue. I think I'm just going to go for a brown. I have to make it look realistic, and the what's in the photo I'm not real happy with, so I'll just start with a brown strip, darken it towards one end just for the, and actually darken it a lot throughout because I'm going to try and make it look like rocks as well. There. Down this end we've got a light end, and down here it's sort of going to blue, so I'll get the brown and I'll blend it down to the blues. Keep that cold feeling on this side and darken up some of those rocks. Yep. Yep, nice. Yep, take them out of the picture basically. A little bit of detail needed on the doors and things. I'm going to add them in. I like to try and do it as simple as possible. So just like that and like that. And this door here, just a shadow. And I'll just round up some of these rocks, maybe. Down on that pillar. Just scratching in for blue greys. I'll use the blue grey down the front in the rocks too. Just a few taps here and there. Brown, darker. I'm just mixing a bit of brown with a bit of black. And as usual, all my browns are burnt umbers, and to make it black I'll either use the black or I'll add ultramarine blue. Every artist that I know of anyway has their favourite way of making a very dark colour. Some people like to use, it's usually a blue and a brown of some sort, or a green and a yellow. No, a green. Hang on, what are we doing? We have to look at the opposites on the colour wheel. Green and orange, opposites. Now, I think I'll add pale blues in here to try and shadow that in. Now this thing here is supposed to be a nice green colour. Try and make it realistic. I'll leave a white edge. Oh, I might just add a pretty blue. I'll make a pretty blue to the green. See what I can get there. Now I'll put that much colour on it and then just water that out to thin it out. Okay. Next is detail at the back here, detail at the back here, and that will need, if I half close my eyes I have to decide will I go pale or will I go dark, and I think I need pale, will send it back and make it not so important. There's the water there. Add a bit of red warmth. This side's very cool, it's right in the shade, so I'll continue with the purple and the darks, and no white there, get rid of that white. Okay. Now I'll probably add a bit more white back into this foreground here. I think somehow, now that I've finished the house, kind of regret covering it up with the wall. I wish now I hadn't, so I can make amendments there. You can see a few patches at the back here. So this is where I personally have a habit of scrubbing out with watercolour. I'll go back over it and take out some of the areas that I think are too dark, or they're boring and they just need to be made more interesting. And foliage is one of those things, especially distance foliage. If you scrub out with a nice firm brush like this, you can end up with some just beautiful subtleties. And mixtures of tone. It can go very pale with it. And then the beauty of it is it has a pale centre and dark around the edge. That's what I like about scrubbing out. It's not just a flat colour. And for that reason, I wonder if I should scrub the house. I don't know. Anyway, I'll just work a little bit here. Just work on that little hill. I think I might just leave that as a wall, and I'll just take out some of those darker tones there. And just see if I can make that wall a bit of a feature. I will be putting detail in those windows using gouache. I didn't bother, I just put the dark across there so that they would be, that's the deep colour. Down the bottom here I might play around with this too. So I'm using a smooth paper. It's the Arches pink one, which is hot pressed, and because it's smooth, kind of makes a nice granular feel about the scrubbing back. Okay. Now, just going to fiddle a little bit. I'm going to take a few moments to smooth out areas that I think need. Sometimes the eye can be too overwhelmed by too much detail, and you just need to take out detail. And sometimes a nice flat chisel brush like this can do that job in a painterly way. It looks like it's a real beautiful brush stroke, and really just hiding things that you don't want seen. got the bones of this painting in, and from now it's a bit of a fiddle. I'll definitely get some gouache out, and I'll add the white down here. When the painting is very, very dry, I'll rub out any pencil marks that I've left. Just put that in, refine that. Okay. This red here needs to go in, so I'll go back to my large brush. When I say red goes in, it means to be reflected down in the water. I thought I had done that before, but it looks like it's washed. It's faded out. Let's pop that in. And I need to really strengthen up that side of. You can see that's a bit weak there. I like the lightness there, but the actual white edge of the red roof is a real problem. So I'll turn this sideways, upside down even, so I can get my edge of my brush, just strengthen that. Yeah. So that looks so much better. Make that stronger. On this side I put that dark edge down there because I want that to be a shadow. I didn't want it to look like that though, so I'll put some red on my brush, tap it into that dark edge, scrub it until I've picked it up onto my brush, and then I'll just pull it sideways. And then 3 brushes, leave it, don't fiddle, because then it's going to be, it'll lose its fresh feel. So here I'm going to just put a shadow in there. I think I'll shadow the whole side of this building here with purple. Now I've still got a little bit of that colour giving me grief. It must have been a big blob of that running down the page. Yep. Push it back up a bit and get rid of any edges that make it look distracting. Okay, and in a similar way, this particular one has got a bad edge. So I'll start by straightening that edge as well as I can. Now, I was going to do purple on that, and I will, but I have to wait for that to dry now, otherwise it'll look weird. And I'll just get a bit more dark across the top. And work that up, work that up, work that up. So, while I'm fiddling and waiting for dryness to happen, you can naturally dry things and they take about 15-20 minutes, or you can get the dryer out. I might do that, just so I can speed this up. Over this side there's a little bit more. This could definitely do with some green pushed into the dark purple. If I half close my eyes, I can just get that looking right. Okay. I tend to leave the edges a little bit loose, not worry about them too much. Okay. Going to need to bring those branches down a bit because I've scrubbed that hill out. Wouldn't mind scrubbing that one out too to match. Just don't know. So this is a matter of timing. Which one do I do first? Tell you what I'll do first. I will dry it all off so that I've got dry. I don't have any surprises. Okay. Best scrubbing brush. Just double sure it's clean. Yep. If you touch it with a bit of water and then soak that water up, you'll be surprised what comes up with it. You can get a lovely light edge. A little bit like that. It should be whiter and whiter. But what I'll do now is just ignore what I just said. That was silly. My head, my brain going funny, just saying things. Just going to smudge that in. Don't want too much detail back there. And I'm going to add some little bits of purple into it to dull it down. And then I might just see that my paper's beginning to fold. Very annoying. If this happens to you, which it will do, if you haven't stretched it properly, which I don't do, you can iron it afterwards. Just get the iron onto it. I go full steam. I even put the iron on this side. I don't put it on the back. I know that horrifies people, but you'd be surprised what you can iron. Practice on some old paintings first. See how flat you can make them. They just look brilliant. So I've just scrubbed out a whole pile of foliage over there. Now I'm going to start putting it back in again, just while it's wet. And I'm just going to use a corner of this chisel brush, and that can give detail that you wouldn't dream of finding if you were picking it out with a fine brush. Okay, there's a big shadow over there. I wonder what must have been another big mountain. I might do a purple thing across the water just to give that hint. That's me saying I don't do edges, and there I am doing an edge. Okay, now I think it's time for gouache. I'll have a go. I'm going to keep it out of my pans this time. I used to put it in the pans, but now I'm going to try and keep it separate because it spoils the paint. I might just try a card. I'll sometimes do it on my photograph just to see how it looks. It looks fine. It looks better than the real one. And just make sure you haven't lost all your paint in that first test. Okay, now I'll do that again down into the water, but I'm just going to, might do it thinner. There, that'll do. Now I'm just going to give that a little bit of a shake. I'll come back to that later. While I've got this white mixed up, I can fix up that edge. So little bits of repair that you think needed white. Sometimes I'll use the white to go over pencil because I just feel maybe I won't be rubbing it out and I don't want it to be on show. That red should come down. I'm just doing a fake gutter there. So now the windows, you don't want to do too much detail, so I'm going to load the brush up and scrape some off. So it's just do it as thin as I can. 4 verticals. Same over here, and around the house, around the front door. I'll just smudge that out a little bit. And a detail around this little door there, and fun part here is going to be putting it down into the water. So just doing horizontal lines, like tap, 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 tap. See if I can zoom in on that. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, there goes the dog again. Okay, dry brush across here. And decide where else I need. Right at the back. Oh. Okay, where else can I have a little bit of fun? Okay, reflecting down from this area, I'll just whiten that out. Okay, horizontal lines. So the idea is you stop them pretty well exactly underneath Sometimes I push in and pull, push in, pull, like that. And then I have to do it the other way. So easily done. To go right underneath that, I'll touch, push there, push there, push there, push there, push there, like that. Turn it back, not too bad. These ones here don't seem to matter too much. They're a bit more random. And the front, beside the front door is, I've got to make sure I've got that lined up, and once again it's not quite, so I'll push over. And on the other side, not so definite a line, but a bit looser. So I'll just fiddle around a little bit there with a bit of freedom. I won't be too stiff. And along here, that one, the edge of the building. I add a bit of white in there just to fumble around some dry tint. And once again, boom, 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 down into the water. And I'm trying to keep a slight angle of this water. I'm not doing it straight across. It's got to have that feeling of looking at it, the tide. I don't know, the wind blowing it, the tide coming in one way, wind blowing another. Right. Has got a flag at the top, so I'll put white there, but I'm pretty sure it's finished flag, but add that another time. I'm going to put a little dot for a chimney. And kind of would like to emphasize the white in the front here, so I'll just add a few more lines here to this. Had I put in a darker blue down the front, that might have been nice too, but I didn't. I let it go very pale and it's faded out now. It's kind of too late. If I wanted to really experiment, I could try working back in with the blue, but if it was an oil paint, definitely, but being watercolour, no. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit and so much as lightly add white to there. I really like what's happening here, so I'm not going to play with that. I'm not going to play with the mast anymore. I do want to put purple dark down that side. I really feel it's totally shadowed, and I'll do it now. Let's see if I mess it up, I mess it up, but I'll rewind that bit and you won't see it. So, theoretically, you don't allow the. That's nice. Some fake lines going across there. This brush is letting me down a little bit. It's doing some funny things, but not my fault, of course. I'll just scrub that in. Yeah, it just darkens that off, so it's not such a big deal. This side of the barn definitely is a mistake. I need to make it a little bit wider. It's bugging me, so I'm going to use a bit of gouache. I'll have to make sure I remember to clean it out of my palette later. Oh, okay, what colour is it? It's almost a flesh colour. Might mix it in the gouache pan. Yeah, what the heck, make it almost white. Yep. Yep. Touch of sun hitting these rocks at the front of the house. That will work. And light on the top of this platform. Make it look like a swimming jetty. That works. And some more light kicking around through that end part there to make it look like rocks. Did I say I wasn't going to fiddle? Everything mine. Okay. Let's put a point on this. I'm going to put something up the top of that. It's not there, but I'll just put something on that. Make it look like a bird. Probably silly. In that case, I better make the chimney a little bit stronger. Who paints their chimney white? I'll probably knock that back in a minute. When it lightens, when it dries, I'll put some dark green against it, if not now. So thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to do some more, so hit the subscribe button and the like, and that way you're notified, or in the bell, that way you're notified when I upload a new one. And in the meantime, I've got a little job to do down the back. It's a fun one too. See you soon. Bye bye. Mm-hmm.